Everyone, and welcome to a Christmas Eve evening edition of the OBX Wave Report. I am your wave reporter, Robert Scribbler, and for today or for this evening, we are going to do another Friday for Future episode because, again, it is indeed Friday. It is the Friday before Christmas, a holiday where Christians celebrate the birth of a child that um, Christians believe brings hope and peace and is willing to sacrifice for the betterment and the future of all mankind. And if we are to carry the light of hope in our hearts and listen to our better angels and to care for our brothers and sisters and our neighbors, then we also want to care for our earth and for the beauty of and the resilience of the world that we inhabit. Because when we do that, we also care for each other. Now, of course, I am a surfer and I am very interested in preserving the ocean environment and the coastlines where from which we launch our boards and paddle out into the glorious wild that is nature, to dance in harmony with nature and to experience the richness of the world and to live a rich life by being able to experience these wonderful things. And so today in our Friday for Future episode, I am going to talk about some personal climate action that I'm going to take today and that I am going to urge you to take as well, if you have the means. And it doesn't really take much. It's just 2 cups of coffee basically at a minimum. And I'm going to go through, I'm going to highlight this wonderful organization that has done so much to help protect the climate and to protect our coastlines and to protect our future. And then when I'm done, I'm going to donate to this organization myself. So this is a video blog for climate action for coastal defense. And the organization that we are going to focus in on is 350.org. Now, how did 350.org originate? I really hope that I get this right. Bill McKibben might send me a tweet and complain that I have gotten this wrong, but I do believe that 350.org started as a result of the messaging by climate scientist Dr. James Hansen, who urged governments to try to limit emissions to the point that the maximum amount of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere would end up being 350 parts per million. Now, we have overshot that by a considerable amount. We're in the 410s now, 410 parts per million carbon dioxide. So we got to do a lot to bring the Earth climate system back to 350 or possibly even below. But according to Dr. James Hansen, the maximum safe limit for carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere was around 350 parts per million. And so thus the organization 350.org was born with a goal in mind to, if we did not keep carbon dioxide in the range of 350 parts per million globally, that we did all that we could to bring it back down to draw it back down to 350 parts per million or below, which would represent a safe limit and would at the very least help to get us on the path toward a stable climate that supported healthy habitats for both humans and the natural system that we all rely so much upon. And from the surfing perspective, that helps to keep our coastline stable so that we can enjoy wonderful coastal lifestyle as well. So since 350's inception, they have done a lot. I mean, they have been a um, a kind of David versus the Goliath of the interests that attempt to lock the world into ongoing fossil fuel burning. And the main drive of 350.org, which I really, really love, is they are focused like a laser 100% on transitioning the world to clean energy systems, that being the number one goal to pursue to stop those increases in carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere and then get us on a footing where we can then start to apply the other techniques and methods of sustainability to draw down those atmospheric carbon levels. So let's go through some of the history of 350.org. What have they done? Well, they did start off in, I think it was late 2008, early 2009, with Bill McKibben, through Bill McKibben's leadership and guidance, and also following the publication of a book by Dr. James Hansen called The Storms of My Grandchildren. And in 2009, they declared a first global day of climate action, and this was an effort to get more and more countries involved in climate action. And they also heralded their goal of keeping atmospheric carbon dioxide levels at 350 parts per million or below, or if we overshot that target, to get it back to 350 parts per million or below. And according to CNN, this first day of climate action was the most widespread day of political action in our planet's history. So, boom, just right out the gate, major impacts. In 2010, the work of 350.org continued as 350.org reached out to peoples across the globe and through a global work party to get their work, to get people's hands dirty for the benefit of the Earth system and our environment. And then in 2011, a pipeline was being constructed that linked the tar sands to the global marketplace. And climate scientists recognized that tar sands were the worst kind of fossil fuels for the climate system. All fossil fuels are bad for the climate system, but tar sands are among the worst. And so in 2011, 350.org spearheaded the effort to block the Keystone XL pipeline and then spawned a global and local and regional and national movement to do the same. I myself took part in one of the 350.org pipeline protests back in 2011. I remember helping to carry that big pipeline around the White House there, and so again making waves across the world and using the Keystone XL pipeline not only as a goal, to stop the increased extraction of fossil fuels, but also to raise global awareness about the need to transition to clean energy. And then immediately following up 2011 with the Stop the Pipeline movement, Bill McKibben and I'm no, I'm doing a video blog, sweetie. Yeah, right now. So yes, it's live, and I'm talking about 350.org. Yeah, cats. We're doing the Christmas thing. Yeah. So on yes. So in 2012, 350.org began its divestment movement from fossil fuels, and the goal there was to show that fossil fuel burning at this point was both a negative for the climate system, but also morally irresponsible, and to urge investors to act morally by divesting from fossil fuels and investing in clean energy. And at the time, a lot of investors just poo-pooed this. They said, oh, well, if someone stops investing in fossil fuels, someone else is just going to take their place. But now trillions of dollars have been divested from fossil fuels, and the message has been driven home that fossil fuel burning is ultimately both very harmful and it is also not a moral activity. Morality being a structure that we use, an ethical structure that we use to understand what is healthy for our society and for humanity over the long term. So divestment started in 2012, and then in 2013, big work in global training for youth climate activists started. So I'm saying this is a Friday for Future video blog here. Well, Friday for Future later sprung up out of the Youth Global Climate Activist Movement, which 350.org helped to spearhead. And then moving on to 2014, there was a massive march in New York, the People's Climate March, which was a major milestone for climate action that saw an astounding 400,000 people take part in protest actions around the world, in over 2,000 protest actions around the world. And then moving on to 2015, the Paris Climate Agreement was highlighted by 350.org, who helped to raise awareness of the necessity for a strong climate summit, a strong climate action, and 350.org helped to put pressure on global leaders to make real commitments to act on climate and to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius or less. And over 195 countries signed a commitment to do that. So major milestone there with the Paris Climate Agreement. And then moving on to 2016, 350.org moved forward with a campaign to break free from fossil fuels, and this brought together over 30,000 people in 20 countries, and Keep It in the Ground became a global rallying cry for fossil fuels. At the same time, 350.org launched the Exxon New campaign after revelations became public that the fossil fuel industry, particularly Exxon, had done the climate research and knew about the impacts, but then worked to misinform the public. And this was a misinformation strategy by fossil fuel industry that lasted for multiple decades, because the fossil fuel industry knew as early as the 1960s that the fuels that they were trying to sell to the public would have lasting long-term impacts on the global climate system. And then moving on to 2017, 350.org worked hard to get both coal plants and pipelines canceled across the world, even as they promoted clean energy as the alternative. And then moving on to 2018, a new IPCC report came out at the same time that 350.org was mobilizing indigenous communities to help fight pipeline expansion in the for the Kinder Morgan mountain pipeline, and 350.org helped to get New Zealand to ban all new permits on the books for oil and gas exploration offshore. And then finally in 2019, a global climate strike whose organization was assisted by 350.org, helped to halt the Lamu coal plant in Kenya and to gain the passage of fracking bans in Brazil for Parana, and I hope I'm saying that right, Parana and Santa Catarina. So for fracking bans that would leave shale gas reserves in the ground. And so massive climate action by 350.org. I particularly love the focus of 350.org. And Friday for Future, I did mention how that also came up out of a lot of the organization, the Youth Climate Organization, that 350.org also helped to spearhead. So I really love 350.org. This is my Friday for Future video. At the end of this video, I'm going to provide a donation to 350.org because please, 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 350.org, keep doing the wonderful work you're doing to help raise awareness and to spur global climate action, because as all the folks at 350.org, including Bill McKibben, know, we need to move on with a major sense of urgency. And we we need to stop fossil fuels and build 100% renewables. And yes, yes, and that means wind, water, solar, batteries, electric vehicles. And if they can ever get, um, you know, a safe form of hydrogen fusion off the ground, then that as well. But right now, we have all of, and let's just underline this, we have all of the energy systems that we need right now to tackle a climate crisis. We don't need any other magic weapons. We don't need any silver bullets. If any new um, breakthroughs in research do come along, then they will be helpful, as the national laboratories have pursued. But it is worth noting that we do have the means to get to zero fossil fuel use as energy and 100% use, renewable use as energy, and have zero emissions from the global energy system. And that should be our goal, and we should move as rapidly as we can. And moving rapidly involves donating and supporting and taking part in wonderful organizations like 350.org. And so that's my Friday for Future episode for today on December 23rd, Christmas Eve. Thank you for joining me, and also please excuse the family interruptions. It's all cool. I'm live streaming this, so we sometimes can expect such things to happen. But in any case, thank you for joining me, and please remember to do everything you can to help save our beautiful coastlines and our beautiful world itself from the harms caused by fossil fuel burning in the form of